When I was about 11, I was walking home and an old guy who was pushing a stroller out of the blue put his hand over my eyes for about a second as he was passing by. I have no idea why I still remember this. I went to bed one night after watching a bunch of spooky paranormal videos and was thoroughly on edge. I was ridiculously paranoid about ghosts, even though I had never had anything ghosty in the house at all, nor had anything bad happened in it that I know of. Then at around 3 a.m., still not asleep because of fear, the band on my boxer briefs snapped as if someone pulled on them and then let go. This happened when I was just about 4 years old. We lived in a really small apartment that had 2 rooms. When you enter our room, you could just see the kitchen and there's a doorway on the left which is our bedroom. I was playing in the bedroom and got my slipper stuck under the bed. I can't seem to get it since there's only a 2-inch gap under the bed. I don't know what got into me, but I started chanting something like, "Slipper, get out now," over and over again. Then I got this feeling of dread and I got scared, so I ran away. After a few minutes, I sneaked to the bedroom and found my slipper a foot away from the bed. I ran inside to get it and got out as fast as I can. I don't know how it could have happened. As a little girl with an overactive imagination, I just assumed a rat passed by, heard me and just pushed my slipper out of there.
I was home alone and in the bath, but I had closed the door so that my dogs wouldn't run in and try to jump into the bath too. I was in there for a good 45 to 50 minutes, and when I climbed out and opened the door, there had been a table moved right in front of the door. I never heard a thing while it was happening, never even heard my dogs bark, and they bark for anything, and they were playing outside, which is so strange for them. I was staying in the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas, oldest property on the Strip with a sordid mob history. In the middle of the night, I woke and saw a dark figure moving around the foot of my bed and coming up the gap between the twin beds. I hit the light, and there was a full figure of a man in a 60s sports blazer with blood all over his face. I yelled, "Go away," and start flinging my arm in his direction. Just like that, he disappeared. I woke my friends in the other bed and my buddy said, "What the hell are you swatting at?" I told them and they laughed at me. The following morning, my buddy said after I had fallen asleep, water was dripping on his head, but there was no leak on the ceiling, and was convinced we may have shared a paranormal encounter. I was visiting my dad last summer and trying to fall asleep when suddenly, I felt a hand grab my ankle. I kicked furiously at whatever was grabbing me, jumped out of bed and screamed. There was nothing there. My dad came running into the room and found me sitting on the floor, facing the bed. He asked me what was wrong and didn't believe me when I said nothing, that I thought something grabbed me, and even checked the closet. I immediately felt embarrassed, but it felt so real. I've never had something like that happen before or since. My grandma lives in a very stereotypical horror movie house, small Midwest town, white and old-looking home, on a farm. She even has a chipped wooden Mary Nativity in the front yard. She also has a cemetery about a half-mile down the road. I used to sleep in the room in the corner on the top floor, my aunt's room, and it had a wooden rocking chair in it. When I was younger, I would wake up because I thought I heard it rocking, to the point where I would wake up my grandma and have to stay in her room. About 10 years later, my mom, aunt and I were talking about how creepy my grandma's house was. My aunt goes on to talk about how when she was younger, the reason my mom and her ended up sharing a room was because she thought her room was haunted. She said she woke up one morning and the rocking chair was about 2 feet closer to her bed, and after that night, it would start rocking on a nightly basis at midnight. This past year, I went to bed on a normal night, and in mid-dream, everything stops and a voice says, "The fire alarm is about to go off." I wake up about 5 minutes later when the fire alarm starts in our building. I asked my roommates the next day if anyone said that, and I just happened to hear it, but they said the alarm went off around 4 a.m. and they were all sleeping prior to it going off. Plus, none of us knew they were testing the alarm beforehand. I was weirded out after. When I was 7, I suddenly awoke in the middle of the night to a young child kneeling near my bed praying. At first, I thought it was my younger brother, so I asked him what he was doing. After I asked, He slowly looked at me and stood up and started running, so I hopped out of bed and followed him down my stairs and out my front door. We had a long driveway, and I followed him all the way to the end, and then he simply vanished. I went back to my room and nothing like that has happened since. When I was 16, I was riding horses with my friend in the field beside her house. The horse threw me and I hit my head, hard. The next thing I know, I'm on my back in incredible pain staring up at my friend, who is frantically screaming at me. Dazed, my gaze shifted and then refocused on her friend behind her, a tall, thin man wearing a black suit and an old-fashioned, wide-brimmed hat. He was staring unblinking into my eyes over my friend's shoulder. Days later she came to visit me in the hospital, and I asked her about the man I'd seen. I thought it was the new boyfriend she'd recently told me about. She told me there was no one there but me and her. When my boyfriend was about 4 years old, he would talk to a man he saw in the mirror. Naturally, his parents were curious about his behavior and asked him questions about the man. He told his parents details about the man, including his appearance, hobbies, and how he died. It turns out that one of the former owners of the house was a man who had committed suicide in the house, and he matched the descriptions of the man my boyfriend saw in the mirror. When his parents found out, they moved out of the house a month later,